Body secrets. You really think this machine will be able to power the factory? The woman asked his friend, scholar, local mad scientist, curiously. If my calculations are correct, and they are, this machine could power the factory and half the town if every house was outfitted with the same modern marvels as yours, Logan stated proudly. And you are sure we are okay so close to it? Maybe we should make a bigger perimeter, just in case. Virgil suggested, already pulling at Roman's sleeve. Virgil was an employee of Roman's father's, in charge of babysitting him since he was old enough to be working, and even before that their parents stuck him on his back. He'd been okay when they were younger, actually. A bit of a scaredy cat, but fun overall. A friend even. Virgil's goal in life since beginning to work for Roman's father, though, seemed to be sucking the joy out of everything Roman did. If he tried acting, then he shadowed him and dragged him away the second rehearsals were over, while also drilling his lines in every free moment, just as an example. Technically, Virgil was his personal assistant, but he seemed to think that that meant micromanaging every minute of every day. He didn't even appreciate Roman's valiant efforts to get him to relax every once in a while, allowing him to accompany him to parties, letting him follow him when he spent time with his friends or when he went to see incredible new things. Roman shook his arm loose. This is my leisure time, Brennan. Let me leisure, he snapped, taking an ill-advised step closer to the humming machine. Be that as it may, sir. Why did it annoy him so much when Virgil was formal with him? I'd be remiss if I didn't caution against playing with lightning, he insisted. He had a point. Woman sighed and was about to make room, but then some strange crack sounded through the air. Woman! He heard, and then all went blank. There was a ringing in his ear, and a strange tightness around his heart. His thoughts darted around to terrible possibilities that made him scared to open his eyes. Woman, come on, before someone sees. That was weird. That sounded like his voice. He opened his eyes and gasped in shock. I know. I tried to tell Logan, but he thinks you are playing a prank. Tell him you're not, his voice said with his mouth. I. Why am I outside my body? Am I dead? Oh God, I'm dead, aren't I? And just like that, the tightness squeezed and he couldn't breathe, as the hangar was too small. Breathe. Calm down. We swapped bodies somehow. I know it feels like the world is ending right now, but you'll be fine. Slow breaths. I know it's terrifying, but breathe with me. His voice was gentle and soothing, and there was a hand on his chest, and another held one of his hands to his chest to feel a slow rising and falling. He had a hand and a chest. He had a body. He could breathe. What was that? He asked once he felt somewhat normal. Panic attack. Listen, your dad and mine can be here any minute for Logan's demonstration. Try to act normal. Let me do the talking and just roll with things. I'll fool your parents, you fool mine, until we figure out how to fix things, okay? Roman nodded vaguely. His own body rose up as he studied the one he had now. The pale skin, the clothes. He was Virgil. Believe me now, Logan, his body asked a little sharply. Do you know what this means? This proves the existence of a life force tied to your personhood beyond just the body and the mind, Logan exclaimed, incredulous. Logan, Virgil hissed. It had to be Virgil in his body. Logan wasn't sure how he felt about that. The nurse cleared his throat and straightened himself out. Ah, yes, of course. Secrecy would be best. Forgive me. I understand how dire the situation is, Logan assured them. Dire? Roman whispered, his chest clenching again as he attempted to get up. Virgil turned to him and helped him stand. Wrong word choice, I promise. We'll be okay so long as no one notices. And they won't. We are around each other so much, I can be you. And no one will question me being quiet and withdrawn. The woman nodded. That made sense. Since when are you so confident? He wondered. Since I woke up in your body, Virgil stated. We are ready for your demonstration, Mr. Avion. Oh, boys, what are you doing here? The woman's father wondered as he and Virgil's father and a few other potential investors approached. Without hesitation, Virgil responded. Mr. Avion wanted to rehearse his pitch. And upon my request, Mr. Brandon kindly cleared some room in my schedule today. It seems though that he is feeling a bit faint. His schedule. Virgil would have to go to his meetings and such. Ask him. Virgil, have you eaten today? Virgil's father asked. That was him. He was Virgil. He had eaten, right? They'd been at the crofters and they always had something delicious for them. Not that I'm aware of, Virgil said in his stead. And as woman thought back, that was true. He hadn't eaten them. More concerned with Roman not getting his suit dirty. He should have made sure he did, though. Now that the shock was subsiding, he was aware of how hungry this body was. Virgil, Mr. Brennan scolded gently. I figured I could eat you later. We were busy today, he argued. What other reason could he give? I'll make sure he eats something before we head to the Sanders family, Virgil promised, gently nudging him to get going. Your boy has been doing quite marvelous, still an old friend. I feel he should get a raise, provided he takes better care of himself, of course, the woman's father told Mr. Brennan. Virgil didn't say anything, just led Roman away. Anyone else would have jumped on the opportunity to secure a raise for themselves, but Virgil just made sure they were out of sight of those who knew them best. Roman looked back to Logan. Good luck, and mind that perimeter, okay? He said. It was a Virgil thing to say. Logan nodded and waved them off. Good job, Virgil told him as he hurried them to a food stand. You only had bread and water this morning. You were in a rush. So we'll need to cut in the budget and feed you something decent. The purse is in your right chest pocket. Woman frowned, not even reaching. If you were hungry, why not eat at the crofters? I offered, he insisted. I was working. You were socializing. It would have been unprofessional. Purse, please. Woman shook his head. You fainted on me. I buy. If that's the story we are going with, then I won't be so callous as to make you spend money on a basic need you've been neglecting out of a ridiculous sense of duty. Virgil rolled his eyes. Fine. Without prompting from Rowan, he received his purse from its usual place and went to order, but hesitated. Um, what do you want? He asked. What? Don't know my favorite order? He smirked. We basically grew up together. I'm shocked. Watching his own eyes roll like that was strange, especially with how satisfying it felt. And then Virgil flawlessly ordered Roman's favorite pastry along with a plain bagel. As they left the stand, he handed him the sugary confession and bit into his own. Roman thought that over. He hadn't ordered something fancy for himself despite having the budget for it now. Once his treat was finished, he checked the purse. That was not a lot of money. He wasn't going to ask now. Later, when they were back in their own bodies. About the Sanders. No offense, but I know your schedule better than you do. We have about 30 minutes to visit them and their new baby. Name's Thomas. He seems healthy. After we leave, we have a 15-minute window. 20, since I won't have to force you to leave, to get to the factory to meet with the union. Your father wants you to lead communications with them. It's been tough since most feel they are stuck with a middleman rather than the big boss. We expect the meeting to take an hour. You would have had a 20-minute break after that, but you wanted to help out Logan. You always add something. So we'll have to get straight to the meeting with your dad and the board members when you, meaning I, am supposed to observe mostly unless I need to bring up union matters. Which I do. We prepped for it together, so it should be fine. You! He points to Roman sternly to indicate this was where he was talking about him in Virgil's body. Have to sit outside and redirect anyone who wants to talk to someone inside. To Sally if it's for a very senior or a board member. You have them call or schedule an appointment for after the meeting if it's for Roman. Planner is in your collar pocket. If you can resolve issues yourself, you do so. Woman does not like adding meetings. If it is really urgent and you have no other choice, you can interrupt the meeting, but only at the last resort. Understood? Woman nodded, a little intimidated by this side of Virgil. It sounded like he was kind of forgetting that he was Roman and not a temporary replacement he needed to train while he was made to take a break by their parents. Virgil took a deep breath and relaxed a little, his gaze drifting up and his tone becoming calmed. Woman likes a cup of coffee after meetings. He claims he likes it black and will complain about you getting it wrong, but he needs milk and two sugars or his stomach will give him trouble for hours. When the last-minute meetings are handled, you let him be in his office to finish up work and read through his script. They are doing Romeo and Juliet. Stay close by in case he needs anything. He will likely hand you some finished paperwork to hand to his father so he can sneak off and get to the driver to take him to the theater. Let him. When rehearsal is over, you make sure he is at the main Rivera home in time for dinner. It is a requirement from his parents to let him keep acting. After you drop him off, Sander, the driver, will offer you a ride home. You usually decline and tell him to stay hi to Ingrid and the kids. But if you are really tired or unsure how to get home, you can accept. It'll make him feel better, honestly. At home, you'll have dinner with your parents, and they'll lecture you on self-care and whatnot. After they go home, you will go to bed. Read a little after revising tomorrow's schedule and making adjustments as needed. And then you go to sleep. Roman was practically speechless. You do all that for me? He asked, stunned. Seeing his body react to being caught, showing that he cared like that, was a funny experience. And Roman was determined to get Virgil to blush like that when they were back to normal. It, it's just my job, he insists. Getting me the coffee I can handle rather than the one I get to imitate my father is not your job. Letting me slip by you so I can feel free for a little bit is not your job. Resolving issues in my stead to lighten my workload is not your job. Making sure I don't get in trouble with my parents and can keep acting is not your job. Seeing that I get home all right is not your job. My dad is right. You need a raise and extra days off, the woman decided. He felt a little bad. He didn't know half as much about Virgil's needs and habits. Did he? When I'm pushing too hard, you pull at your outside jacket pockets. That's how I know I gotta stop. You are scary when you lose your patience, he mutters, as he thinks back to the little things he did notice about Virgil. When you do eat in my presence, which means when my dad invites your family over for dinner, you study your food first, then you cut out a piece and you eat everything else before that. When you are nervous or scared, you play with your cuffs. You never notice when people want your attention. Girls specifically. You know Sally has been trying to get you to ask her out for over a year, right? Virgil scoffs. It's true. If I knew when this was going to be over, I'd land you a date by tonight. Girls like you. You're attractive. Deal with it. Virgil just looked away. Even if you were right, I'm not interested in any girls, so drop it. Woman didn't though. That's because you refuse to have a life outside work. And I know I've been a pain, but I've also been trying to be nice and get you to have fun every once in a while. To get my friend back, he admitted only to himself. Not that you noticed. He was a bit hurt by that. Virgil knew all about him except when he was trying to be a good boss, a friend. I know, I noticed. I appreciate the outings, really. They just bring out the I feel like I am dying feeling. Oh, why didn't you say anything? Roman asked. He didn't want him to feel like that. Because I can handle it. And I don't want to lose this job. That put a lot on the line asking your dad to hire me. If I mess up, I can't mess up. Virgil frowned and felt at his chest. Okay, this is weird. It's not a nice feeling, but I don't feel like I need to calm down a minute. Huh. Woman considered the yet to light and tightness of his chest. Was this normal for Virgil? I wouldn't fire you just because you need a breather every once in a while. If I'd known that me riling you up caused you distress like earlier, I wouldn't. Virgil sighed and shook his head. I don't want people to treat me like I'm fragile. I can handle it. I've been living with it since I was little. We're here. And just like that, the Sanders family welcomed him into their home, and Roman felt his chest tighten even more. Socializing suddenly got him nervous. Mr. Sanders had been one of the first people hired by the company and had been a spokesman for the workers from the start. Now a union leader and most willing to work with Roman. He'd be absent for today's meeting though, considering he had just welcomed his third son into his family. What a day for Roman to not be the one dealing with disgruntled workers. He swallowed. No freaking out now. Virgil might need backup. Except he didn't. He was warm and witty, dismissed any attempt Mr. Sandler made to talk about work as Roman would have, and cooed over the baby. Roman kept an eye on the watch the way he always saw Virgil do, and tried not to let the worries about getting caught or getting Virgil in trouble overwhelm him. Want to hold him? Virgil suggested suddenly, with a glance to the parents to check in with them. They seemed okay with it. Roman loved babies. He loved holding them, and missing out on this one would have bummed him out. Virgil knew this. Roman smiled and approached, trying to push away the new set of nerves blocking his throat. You'll do great. I'm right here. It was his voice, but Virgil speaking through it, and the nerves slunk back enough for Roman to enjoy this wonderful moment with a newborn child. Virgil suddenly tapped the watch on his wrist, and Roman was back to reality. The one where he had to act like Virgil and not get him fired. He'd been doing so well, but one distraction. We have to go. Can't have the union think they are not a priority, he stated, handing the baby to Virgil, who handed him back to the proud parents. I suppose you are right. Until next time, he bid before heading out. You did great, Roman muttered softly, feeling a little upset. Virgil had handled that better than he'd expected of him. And Roman had messed up the one thing he was supposed to do. Don't go down that path. Your thoughts are going to convince you you are all sorts of terrible. Don't let them. Think of them as a bitter old person and shut them up as you would any naysayer. It doesn't always work, but it helps a lot of the times, Virgil insisted. I distracted you. I wasn't It was an impulsive thing, he assured him. I'm not used to your kinds of thoughts either. I got so swept away by how much you'd like getting to hold the baby. Virgil took a deep breath. I guess that's what it's like for you, huh? There are so many thoughts and half-formed ideas all the time. And then one gets you going, and having something concrete catch your attention is just all that's important in the moment. If I hadn't felt the watch when I handed you the baby, I wouldn't have thought of the time either. Roman blinked. Do I sound like that? He asked, feeling very self-conscious. Um, well, when you get really excited, it's honestly not as bad as you might think right now. Kind of endearing, really. I said that out loud. I didn't mean it in a weird way, I promise, he rushed frantically. Woman could kinda see it though. If he imagined Virgil rattling on like that and getting flustered, he'd wanted to get him flushed before. Now he wished he could get the usual fairly quiet man to ramble. Did the bad thoughts that tormented him keep him from getting excited? You're okay. Um, thanks. That's nice of you to say. Virgil clears his throat. You're welcome. Man, how do you keep it together in meetings with thoughts jumping every which way? Like, I keep looking at you and trying to make conversation, but my thoughts just. Like, this is weird looking at myself, but it's not me. Right? Woman nodded. Like seeing yourself in a picture, but it's life size, and moves, and talks. And to answer your earlier question, I've learned to deal. Try keep your hands busy during meetings, taking notes or doodling or playing with a pen, he advises. Virgil frowned. It was not a Virgil frown. So that must be what Roman looked like when he frowned. Huh, you do that. Okay, good to know, he said eventually. And then they got to the meeting. The workers were, as expected, extra vicious today. And Roman's heart was racing the entire time, like he was the one under fire. But Virgil listened and gave a nice speech about how important they were to the company, and that he was not here as a middleman, but as the future head of it. That he was here to get familiar with them and their grievances. He addressed the problems as best as he could, and most seemed to back down. It was pretty typical, but then your little lapdog to push us out. Woman had been checking Virgil's planner and admiring how detailed he was with, and the wiggle room he foresaw for Woman's whims. Woman knew, however, that this remark was about Virgil, and he was ready to defend him. Sadly, not as himself. But Virgil was allowed to have his say. He was practically his right-hand man, and after all this was over, Woman would make sure to be more of a team player. But now, lapdog? I'm sorry, are you referring to me? He asked. Virgil would probably feel nervous at a personal attack. There might be a terrible squeeze in his heart at these cruel words. But right now, none. This was how Virgil would feel while defending another. And though the fear was there, it did not paralyze him, nor make him want to hide. He was not in danger. Virgil was. Who else? Everyone can see you follow this brat around like a pup. Mr. Espinosa, please mind your manners, Virgil stated calmly. Yeah, Carlos, settle down, one of the other men who'd settled earlier, warned. Think I'm scared of these punks and their empty threats? May I remind you, Mr. Espinosa, that this company is one of the few that allows unionization, the only one in this state even. I don't think the union will allow for a hothead who looks for unnecessary fights to remain on the board, Woman hissed, paging through Virgil's planner. January 13th, birthday of Mr. Jennings. Make sure Mr. Jennings gets home earlier. March 1st, 10-year anniversary of the Wilsons. Send champagne and ensure Mr. Wilton gets a paid day off. April 5th, Mr. Armstrong Sr.'s retirement party. Provide cigars and a bottle of red wine along with a token. Shall I go on proving that this company and young Mr. Rivera and I particular are involved in your well-being? Or would you like to make more of a fool of yourself? I am no one's lapdog, but I am devoted to helping manage Mr. Rivera's time so that you all get heard and cared for. Now, if you'll excuse us, we'll have a meeting with the board to get through. Young Mr. Rivera was planning to negotiate on sick leave, he stated as he saw Mr. Espinosa shrink back as everyone glared at him. Still am, Virgil stated. Though for future references, Carlos, please treat other staff members with respect, all right? He stated as he got up and headed to the main office. You sure you'll be all right in there? Woman worried as they climbed the stairs. Virgil had never observed him in a board meeting. Yes. You just do as I ask, and for the love of everything, don't flirt with Sally. Please. Woman sighed and nodded. He'd wingman for Virgil when they were back to normal, though. Virgil deserved a night off with a cute date, and Sally was cute. Hello, Mr. Rivera. Your father and the board are ready for you. The girl in question said professionally to Virgil, who paused. He cleared his throat and nodded. Thank you, Sally. You look lovely today, by the way, he complimented. Not interested at all, huh? Sally smiled politely and nodded. Thank you, sir, she said. Virgil nodded, headed inside and closed the door. And then we were alone, Sally said in an unmistakable tone. And Virgil didn't believe him when he said he was fully on Sally's radar. Roman wasn't an idiot, though. He wouldn't ruin the man's chances at a date by suddenly going all in. He still had to make polite conversation, though, and he could lay a little groundwork. So he turned, the easy compliment ready on his lips. But as he scanned for something more specific, she did look lovely. She had done her makeup a bit more daringly, not to mention the lovely feathery comb she had put up in her knot. Her work uniform was modest, which couldn't be helped, but the poor girl had obviously put in an effort. If she tried signaling any more clearly, people might start to gossip. But he appreciated beauty as he would a painting. It was clearly there, but his body, Virgil's body and mind, it meant nothing beyond that. Odd. You do look lovely. A new comb? He said politely as he took a seat at Virgil's desk. He pushed around some papers and was once again impressed. Contact information for any person Roman had talked to in a professional setting, and a few outside, as well as all his favorite places to eat and his favorite order. An aid to temporary staff members, clearly. Virgil definitely didn't need to consult a letter. He always delivered the right order, even when Roman didn't specify. Yeah, glad you like it, Sally smiled, sounding excited. I'm clearly not the only one, he stated. Virgil didn't find Sally attractive. Not the way Roman thought she was attractive. But Virgil did find Sally attractive while in Roman's body, with Roman's mind. Was it just that Sally wasn't his type? In any case, Roman should do her favor and get her to move on in a nice way. What do you mean? She asked. Woman, he nodded to the door. He could barely get a hold of himself, he pointed out. If I were you, I'd lock that down. He's a good catch, he offered. If you are interested, of course. I suppose he's not everyone's taste, he allowed. You should suggest I try to get young Mr. Rivera to pay me attention, Sally asked, astonished. Or ask him out yourself. You're a self-made woman. I think he's the kind of guy who appreciates boldness. He was certain of that fact, actually. Boldness, she repeated. Woman nodded. Just then there was a man coming in. He was young, a bit flustered, and in a hurry. Woman got up and addressed him, trying not to notice too much that he did regard this person the way he normally would. Eyes drifting to freckles and blonde curls and broad shoulders and, yeah, all the things he'd appreciate the way he used to appreciate everyone. Which was apparently not the way it worked for everyone. Brats was okay. The only one who knew was maybe Virgil if he saw an attractive boy today, and Virgil wouldn't tell. The law, thankfully, had changed after some serious rallies and a massive shift in public opinion on privacy, so he didn't risk jail time. But there were still those who'd make his life hell if they knew. The young man was a new hire for a board member and needed some information Roman could easily provide. Once the man walked away, Roman turned back to Virgil's desk to avoid lingering eyes, only to find Sally sitting on it. Oh boy! Everything all right, Sally? He sure wasn't. Steady, Brits. Slow and steady. Want to go dancing with me this Friday, Virgil? If Sally had looked at him like that this morning, he'd feel excited and flustered and in all kinds of lovely ways. Right now, he felt like he was in a corner. Deep breath. You can do this. Virgil spends every hour of every day making your life go smoothly. You can take care of this little thing for him. He took a deep breath and let out a sigh. Sally, you are a very lovely girl. I truly enjoy working with you, but I am just not interested in you in that way. I am so terribly sorry. If I did something to lead you on, that was never my intent. Until woman mentioned something earlier today, I didn't even realize you were interested, he assured her, feeling terrible. Sally deflated. I guess that's much. You were just so nice to me. I had to try. She shrugged. I get that. Sorry, he offered. Then there was someone behind him again, and he was back on the job. Things were a bit awkward between him and Sally after that. He didn't know how Virgil would normally go about diffusing such a situation. Maybe it was best not to force his, meaning Virgil's, presence on her. Finally, the doors opened and the board members walked out. Woman's Body and his father amongst them. Good job today, woman. Take it easy, okay? You boys need a breather. Woman poured the coffee and added milk and sugar as he watched his head nod, his posture tense. He put away the sugar and rejoined the two men. Everything okay? He asked as he handed Virgil his coffee, while Sally gave one to the older man. His father beamed at him, meaning at Virgil's body. Yes, you two have prepped this meeting perfectly well. You two make for an excellent team. Reminds me of me and your father when we were younger. Speaking of, got to get you to the barber shop. Felipe doesn't wait forever, Virgil's father said as he approached from the doorway. Woman's father laughed. Bossy, bossy, are you my business partner or my wife? He joked as he let Virgil's father push him along. See you tonight, Virgil, Mr. Brennan stated. Woman nodded. Later, he called out. Next to him, Virgil relaxed. Am I glad we went over that plan so often? I thought I was going to blow it for a moment, he sighed. Then he turned to Sally, who gave him a tighter smile than earlier today. Sally, are you all right? Who did this? He asked worriedly. Sally cleared her throat. I'm fine, sir. No one. I'm just tired. I'll be off in a second, she stated as she gathered her things. Virgil turned to him with a disapproving frown. Honestly, in character. Brennan, what does my evening look like on Friday? He asked. Clear, sir, Roman stated. Kinda proud that he'd memorized the schedule enough to know that. Virgil looked at him a bit impressed. Good. Block it out. We are chaperoning Sally and her friends while they go dancing. If any of them feel uncomfortable around anyone, you and I shall chase the threat away, he declared. Oh, there's no need, Sally assured him. Virgil turned to her. Yes, there is. You clearly need to cheer up. And we are required to take a breather soon by the big boss. So this is perfect. Sally smiled appreciatively at that. Thanks. I'll invite my friends over. She nodded and left. Virgil turned back to him. For turning her down for me. One of her friends is bound to be willing to go out with you. Plus, she looked like she could use it. So, two birds and stuff. Virgil shrugged. Thanks, man, the woman said, generally appreciative. Virgil shrugged. Anything new? He asked. Nope. And if you want to skip rehearsal, I can let them know I felt ill. And after that, we can finish things up here together. Your work and mine, he offered. Virgil nodded. Yeah, sounds good, he agreed. They finished things up in Roman's smaller office. It was nice, really. Maybe Roman would be okay doing it like this more often. Okay, rehearsal or not, we had a bit too much fun, and I gotta take a quick trip to the bathroom. And you? He retrieved a sealed file from his drawers and the woman's finished reports from the desk. Drop these off with your dad. He always stops by the office before heading home. Knock first, he stated firmly. Woman nodded. He didn't want to get Virgil in trouble so close to the finish line of day one. I'll tell him you are waiting for him at the entrance. You're letting Xander take me to my apartment since you don't trust me heading home alone after that fainting spell. Virgil nodded. Sounds good, he stated as he waved him off and left. Roman knocked on the door to his father's office. Come in, his father said immediately. Roman opened the door. These are for you, and your son is driving home with you today. He wants me to let Xander drive me home, he explained, expecting to be dismissed. Thank you. Virgil, sit down, will you? Oh, how to escape? My parents are coming over. Can it wait? He asked. His father frowned. I suppose. I've had time to think about what you saw that day. Thank you for not telling Roman. His mother knows, but I don't know how he'd react. He was going to grill Virgil on that later. I, what to even say to that? I know it's not something you want to keep from him. It's just, I love his mother as much as I could possibly love a woman. And she loves me as much as she could another person. And Roman is our everything. But he is a romantic soul. His parents not being in love with one another? I don't know how to tell him that without him losing faith in me. In love. Roman frowned. I understand, sir. We'll talk more in the future. Have a pleasant evening. And he left. Nope, nope, no panicking now. Deep breaths. After Virgil died on the cute younger chauffeur his father hired more recently to drive his car, he'd know how Roman felt towards people. And tomorrow they'd go to Logan and get this fixed and then talk. A lot. All would be clearer tomorrow. He got to the car and greeted Xander. The sky was overcast and his left side was aching. He got through dinner fine. Virgil's parents were clearly used to him having days where he didn't feel like talking much. It stung a little seeing Virgil's parents be in love and how different it was from how his parents acted. It was so obvious now. They were more like good friends who shared a house and a son. Virgil's parents, it was so clearly different. He was hugged goodbye and left alone in the apartment while the rain came down. He knew Virgil said stuff about reading and reviewing a schedule, but he was tired, and Virgil's sides ached. He found Virgil's sweet sleeper on the bed, thankfully, and hurried to get dressed and pass out. But when he took off the undershirt, he didn't try to look. He was trying to be respectful of Virgil's body, but he saw the scar that had been aching at Virgil's side. Oh, they were definitely going to have to talk a lot. He got in the bed, smaller and less soft than he was used to. He should be too angry to sleep right now, but he was also exhausted. And he opened his eyes in his own room, in his own apartment. He saw that he slept in his clothes. Understandable, as he'd put his sleeper away, and Virgil might have been uncomfortable looking for it. Virgil. He was leaning against his desk, staring at the door Virgil would come through. They had shuffled the morning around together last night to have some time to talk to Logan, but that wasn't needed anymore. So they had time to talk with one another now. Virgil came in, more nervous than usual. Morning, sir, he stated as he closed the door. Rowan pushed himself up against his desk and walked forward, hearing Virgil gasp as he came so close. He hadn't acknowledged it yesterday, because they had been in each other's bodies, which made it weird, but he found Virgil attractive, very attractive. And he wasn't sure what that meant yet. He just knew that he could feel it now so clearly that he didn't get how he let it go ignored for so long. He reached past him and locked the door. Then he placed his hand where he now knew the scar was. Who did this? He demanded. Virgil shuddered under his thoughts. It's nothing. Before I went to private school with you, some boys pushed me around for being from a higher class family than them, and I felt badly. After that, I was sent to private school. We became friends, sort of. You let me play along at least. Though you didn't like it when I cautioned against dangerous stuff. That part makes way more sense now. You are, he stated, not sure what word to use that wouldn't be hurtful. I like men, and you like both. Virgil nodded. You know something about my dad. He's seeing someone. But he's not cheating? Virgil shook his head. You should ask him for details tonight. His blush became feverish. You think I'm attractive? As in how you think Sally is attractive? Woman nodded. More so, if I'm honest. Now that I can be honest. God, this tension. Virgil bit his lip. Not freaking fair. Uh, I find you attractive too. But, Roman, we can't get caught. I know. We'll figure out where we stand and all that later. For now, though, he took Virgil's chin in his hands and angled his face. Virgil's lips parted. I really, really need to kiss you. Okay, Virgil whispered. Roman kissed him. They would go about their lives normally after that, with the exception that they both were aware of the other's secret struggles. They stole moments in the quiet hours, in the moments of privacy that were already there. Sally introduced them to some friends, two of which Roman and Virgil struck a relationship with, not unlike what Roman learned his parents had. They shared a home, Darla, Virgil's wife, aiding Veronica, Roman's, in charity and household matters, along with a close friend of Darla they met at the ladies' club. Sadly, it seemed as though Darla was barren, but she and Virgil adopted two wonderful kids from the orphanage they sponsored. Veronica gave birth to two children herself, and both Roman and her were satisfied with that. Curiously, no additional pregnancies occurred. The children were practically raised as siblings, which everyone agreed was a lovely thing. It was cute how they addressed all four adults as parents, really. Roman and Virgil ran a successful tolerant workspace where people were lining up to get hired, and they themselves couldn't be happier.